So let's get to our major conversation for tonight, and it's about Supreme Court judgment delivered. Now, it seems that there is no gainsaying that there is a president that will be for the next 4 years, and yet he has a mandate to deliver to the people of Nigeria, either the PDP, those who voted for him, who did not vote for him, or APC, those who voted for him, or Labour Party, those who don't like his face. All Nigerians now, he has the burden to deliver to the people of Nigeria. But here is what the president said today at our presidential retreat to his 48 ministers. The president said he wants to perform and has given a charge to his ministers and members of his cabinet that they must deliver. If not, they will have to leave. Well, let me allow you to listen to the president, exactly the way he said it and how he hopes to measure the performance of his ministers.
At the end of this retreat, they are going to sign a bond of understanding between you, the ministers, the permanent secretary, and myself. If you are performing, nothing to fear. If you miss the objective, we review. If no performance, you leave us. I've taken a young lady, very dynamic, and this Abala Usman to head that delivery unit. If you have any complaint about her, see me.
You heard the president. Now, he set up a structure. But is this the first time we're seeing this kind of thing? Can we rely on this kind of retreats and this kind of structure? Have they worked? Let's take a look at it in depthly. Tonight, I'm being joined on the program by our former Minister of Communications, Mr. Adebayo Shitu. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. And it's good to see you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Quite a while, isn't it?
Thank you.
This is not the first time we're seeing a presidential retreat. It happened in your own time. And the second term of President Buhari, it also happened. And it's not the first time we're also hearing the president talk tough that you must perform. But from your own point of view, and the president also talked about homegrown solutions to Nigerian problems. Give us a sense of what you make of what you're seeing in these early days. He said there is going to be a 3-day retreat. We started today.
Well, I want to thank Mr. President for thinking it fit to do the needful by way of calling for a retreat. I don't know the content of today's retreat or the 3-day retreat, but I guess one thing which is important is the fact that he has given some subtle warning to all his ministers. But I want to believe that before giving subtle warning, there is also need for us to have what we can describe as clear and measurable indicators on ministry by ministry basis. If you invite people in as ministers and you post them to ministries, most of them have never been in those ministries before. They probably do not know what exactly these measurable indices for each ministry would entail. So there's need for a team, perhaps outside government, to assist with formulating policies for each of the ministry, measurable indicators as to what they will be expected to attain within the first 6 months, within the, 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years, and all of that. Otherwise, a lot of them, it will be, a lot of them will be groping.
Let me ask you, from your own experience, how easy is it to sack a minister that is not performing?
It's as easy as possible. Whether a minister performs or not, once the president is fed up with his face, he can get rid of him.
So the reason why I'm asking is that there is this political interconnectivity.
Yes.
I mean, you are not only a minister because the president likes your face. Sometimes the president does not even know the people he appoints. He appoints them sometimes based on political sentiments. From those that has worked with him and helped him to win.
There would always be a recommendation from somebody.
So that's the reason why I'm asking. For example, the representation of those people, some of the faces in the cabinet are representation of some political structures in some states. So sacking some of them, how easy it is politically?
It's very easy. He merely asks for replacement from that same zone. It's as easy as that.
So the Bola Tinubu that that kind of statement that say is either you perform or you leave us. You think that he can live up to that kind? This is not Lagos. No, this is the federal government.
Whether in Lagos or at the federal level, he's the boss. He's the one who calls the shots, and I mean, he wouldn't have made that statement out of fun, for the fun of it. He wouldn't have made that statement out of fun.
So that's the fun there. Yeah. All right, let me just help you with that. Right.
So I believe that he's made that statement out of a serious sense of responsibility, and it is a warning to encourage seriousness on the part of ministers, to do the needful. But I would also, repeat again that if you are giving somebody a job, there should be content of that job for him to know the indices that he's supposed to follow. There must be some content.
So let's put some context into what the president said. He said he will have to sign a bond. It's going to be a 4-way bond. Now, between himself, the minister, the permanent secretary, and there is Ms. Abala, Adizat Bala, who is the essay on policy, So that kind of bond, is it strange to you? Have you heard that kind of thing happening between the president and the cabinet?
Well, I served under the Buhari administration. We didn't have this kind of, 4-point agenda, but we also had a retreat, and we were encouraged, and regularly we were supposed to be bringing out, what we had done and all of that. But, different ball game is now in place because Tinubu is not Buhari. Tinubu is Tinubu, and he would have his own style of doing things, But even where you have a policy coordination department, there must be the policies to be coordinated, which should be very clearly marked out, for everybody to know. If I'm in the Ministry of Education, I should be able to know, for instance, that within the next, 2 years, for instance, there must be free education. Within under 1 year, there must be this and that and that and that. I am not very sure that we as yet have those policies for each, because, these policies must be drafted. You are not relying on...
But there was a campaign manifesto, isn't it? So which is supposed to form the fulcrum of that renewed hope agenda. It's supposed to be the fulcrum of the policy.
There was an 8-point renewed program agenda, But you cannot compare it with what we had in the days of Awolowo. In the days of Awolowo, we had what we call 4-point cardinal programs: free education, free health services, integrated infrastructure development, and full employment. And so everybody knew, clearly, even villagers knew. As of today, I want the government to formulate something similar, around the 8-point renewed hope agenda. And also to now give content, except we are asking each of the ministers to go and formulate what they think should be the proper content for each of their ministers.
What should be the ideal?
The ideal really is to put a team together, if it is not too late, for people to make contributions, particularly party members, and of course, people who are experts in the field, in each component. Because 4 years in the life of a country, one expects that having voted, we will have, things that we can say in the 4 years, this is how much we've been able to, go.
But how did they have, what played out in your own time under the Buhari government? If you make a comparison, what played out? How did he go in your own?
Well, it's I want to say with all due respect to all parties that it was the same scenario. we had a retreat, and the retreat essentially was to to enjoin hard work and to ensure that Nigerians have a better deal and so on and so forth. But in terms of specifics, I doubt if I cannot remember that we had any specifics to follow having at that time.
And you know how people criticized the Buhari government at the time, that the style of President Buhari was that he never sacked anybody. Well, because even when there are criticism for a cabinet minister's performance, the president naturally just leaves everybody. And there are those who served 8 years in President Buhari's cabinet.
Well, Buhari didn't give anybody any threat as such. And like I said, Buhari is not Tinubu and Tinubu is not Buhari.
What do you think is the major difference between both personalities?
Well, what I do know of Buhari, with all due respect to him, is that he's a more reserved person. He's one person who gives you a job, and with due respect to him, he really never asks for,
how you are going about it.
How you are going about it. It's unfortunate, but I have to say this in the national interest, so that, governments coming after him would learn lesson. Once you are there, you are there. I mean, if you are in Buhari's government, if you don't go and meet him for the next 4 years, he probably will not ask of you.
It just allows you,
you are there and
on your own frolic, on your own
meet every Wednesday. People bring their memos and they are debated and all of that. But in terms of policy formulation and supervision, we really didn't have any such thing. And I'm happy that President Tinubu is trying to do things differently. But
what do you think Nigerians should expect that could be different? Or you think the President Tinubu might also be the same way? He might be too busy to be supervising and asking about
his
performance?
Statements today, I mean, that's a sign of seriousness and a sign that he wants to do things differently. So what I think he needs to add to it is to create, transparent and quantifiable milestones for each ministry.
You think that apart from the structure, the mechanism that he is creating, so there is a thought behind the political leadership in the ministry, which is the minister, and is the direct connection to the president. There is the civil service structure, which is a permanent secretary. Yeah. And now is asking a third leg, which is the essay on policy, to be an intermediary between the ministry, the permanent secretary, and the president. Do you think that there could be, or there should be, an external force or external mechanism outside of government that will give independent report?
The policy. You see, if you have appointed a policy coordinator, there must be the policy that is going to coordinate. And that is my concern, that for each ministry, for instance, I give an example. In the area of job creation, it is part of the concern of, Mr. President, that there must be job creation. But how we are going to do it, we have not yet highlighted it. We have not yet spelled it out. For instance, if I have my way, for instance, for job creation, it is possible to eliminate graduate unemployment within 2 years. Mm-hmm. It is very possible. How you go about it have to be spelled out for whoever is a minister to implement. So for each of these ministries, when we have goals for each ministry, we should spell out the procedure and the content of the policy, so that everybody, whether you are in the ministry or not, you know what is the content of the policy for each ministry.
And I'd like to ask you this, and a lot of Nigerians will be hoping that you might be able to tell them frankly and truthfully what exactly it is right now. A lot of Nigerians are suffering.
There's no doubt, including me, myself.
Are you suffering?
Of course, yes.
Oh, wow.
We buy from the same market, and I'm not currently in any salary income. And remember the Yoruba adage, which says, "Olowo kan láàrin òtòṣì mẹ́fà,
Literally means
in the
that,
case of people like us, the Olosis around us are more than 6. They are in hundreds.
So literally, for those who don't speak Yoruba, what you just said is that one rich man in the midst of several poor.
6 are they are all poor people. They are all poor people.
So,
and for some of us who have been exposed, people think we are
politically exposed.
Yeah, politically exposed.
So you find people coming to you.
Uncountable on a daily basis.
The pressure is more
on the basis.
And that brings me to my question.
Yeah.
The kind of burden, the kind of pressure
Yeah.
that will be on President Tinubu, who has said, you elected me. That is his word. That you elected, telling Nigerians, and that he's not going to give excuses and he needs to perform. How daunting do you think?
Of course it is daunting. The unfortunate thing which a lot of people refuse to understand is that today's problems of Nigeria were not caused by Tinubu. He inherited this problem. And there's no magic solution. He needs time to attend to each of these problems. And I want to believe that he has already set his foot in trying to find solutions. So Nigerians need to be very patient.
For the experience that you have, how difficult it is to fix these problems?
Well, it is not difficult, except that it is not a thing you can do by miracle. You need time.
So there is no magic wand.
There's no magic wand. You need time. You need articulating, procedures and the content of the solution. And, speak to people, engage with people, let them understand.
Because a lot of Nigerians will be patient because the suffering is so much in the land.
It is unfortunate it is happening. And I have been part of the Buhari regime, and I remember that in 2011, in 2015, when we were campaigning, we promised to do revive the refineries, the 4 refineries owned by government. Unfortunately, in 8 years we couldn't do it, and I regret. And
Mr. Shitu,
I feel very bad about it.
Can you tell Nigerians tonight? I had an expert, an economic expert, who sat in that same chair you are sitting right now, who said the Buhari government has set Nigeria 20 years back. That Buhari government impoverished Nigeria. Do you regret some of the things that happened under that government?
You see, let me tell you. I don't mince words. Where we failed, I will tell you we failed. Particularly in the issue of reviving the... But I will tell you, in the area of infrastructural development, no government before Buhari did as much roads as Buhari did in 8 years. No other government has done that much of
economy-wise.
Economy-wise.
No, I'm saying economy-wise. Did it perform?
Well,
because the economy is what has brought us here today.
You see, it was the failure. If it was our failure in reviving the refineries, because what has brought us is the fact that when we produce raw oil, we are not able to refine them locally. Taking them overseas to overseas refineries means you have to pay for the cost of transporting there. You have to pay for the cost of refining there. You have to also pay for the cost of bringing the refined oil back to Nigeria. And the quantum of all of this is the, so high cost of fuel. And that affects every other sector of our economy.
Well, so those who said that Buhari government put us back 20 years, they're not right.
Well,
they're not wrong.
I think there is an exaggeration. There's a clear exaggeration.
Considering the kind of poverty you described earlier, it has,
definitely before the oil subsidy was removed, things were not as bad as it. So one thing that created, the hyperinflation that we have today is the cost of oil consequent upon removal of oil subsidy.
But from your own point of view, you were one of those who vigorously campaigned for President Buhari.
Of course I did.
But you think a lot of Nigerians are disappointed, isn't it?
Well, I have said it. There are exaggerations. I have told you, for instance, where he has done very well. I've told you.
You have not said where he has not done well.
I have told you where he has not done well in the area of our inability as a government to revive the refineries.
Let me ask you this quickly before we wrap this up. The office of the SGF, what role does it play in this whole coordination of policy, performance, and the activities of cabinet ministers?
Well, it is in an ideal situation, the policy coordination which Hadiza Bala Usman is supposed to be playing, the office of the Secretary of Government is supposed to also be doing that. But I want to believe that the quantum of work which Mr. SGF has to play is so enormous that it is not possible for him to carry all of that. So trying to, break down on some of the responsibilities and asking an individual to concentrate on policy coordination, I think is a step in the right direction.
All right. We need to wrap up now. Just in 20 seconds, I'd like you to tell Nigerians and tell the ministers, wherever of them out of the 48 who are watching tonight, you have stepped into slippery grounds as a minister. You understand how slippery those chairs that they are sitting right now could be. If you are to warn them, what would you say to them? Just in 20 seconds.
Well, number one, from what I see I'm happy that President Tinubu appointed a number of female ministers. But my impression whenever I see them on television is as if they are going to, beauty competitions in the type of dresses, in the type of, showwomanship kind of that I see. I think that there's need for us as a government to show more seriousness in the assignments that we have in assisting this government. Number two, I also want them to now prevail or advise government that they should all agree to indices for each ministry. It's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like somebody going to school without the syllabus.
Yeah. So they need that to perform.
Yes.
Mr. Adebayo Shitu, it's always a pleasure. A lawyer and a former Minister of Communication. Thank you so much, and it's good to see you again.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.